new background again, which, you know, who knew? Hey friends, my name's Gabrielle, welcome to FrumiousReads, and it has definitely been a while, but guess what I'm recording that I'm finally catching up on? My book a day challenge. For those of you who don't know, I'm doing a book a day challenge, and you probably wouldn't know because I haven't been able to film a wrap-up video in forever due to travel, due to graduation, due to just my life being insane, but I'm finally trying to get back on track, and we have a lot of ground to cover. I have been keeping up with my challenge. In all honesty, if I listed all the books that I read, it would take way too long, so I'm just going to put them all in the description below so you guys can scroll through and see all of the books that I've read so far. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to be picking 3 books during this entire time period that I absolutely loved, which is going to be very hard for me because I loved so many of the books. The first book that I'm going to talk about is Labyrinth Lost. Now, Labyrinth Lost was an advanced reading copy that I got at BookCon, written by Zoraida Cordova. It's about a girl named Alex whose whole family practices brujeria, and they live in New York, and she is one of the most powerful brujas of their time, and she hates magic. It's getting very close to her death day, which is like the day that they celebrate the coming of a witch's powers. On that day, she decides to perform a spell that would get rid of her powers completely. Instead of getting rid of her powers, it gets rid of her entire family line and banishes them to the spirit world. Laundry is done. So then it takes place with Alex and her 2 friends as they try and go through the spirit world and save her family so that they don't become forever trapped there. I read it within a few hours, and I read it actually like in depth, could not put this book down, genuinely didn't want it to end. That type of reading. The characters were all very diverse and very interesting, and I loved Alex's perspective and how she is this person who has these great abilities but hates having them. It's not cliche in that sense. It's very realistic. It goes through a natural progression of how she starts off not wanting these powers at all, just wanting to be normal and having really good reasoning for it, and then slowly beginning to accept the fact that her family has a tradition of practicing magic and she happens to be one of them who is really powerful. So I thought that was a great character transformation to see. In my head when I was reading it, I kept picturing the Book of Life. It was like a mix of the Book of Life and Alice in Wonderland, so it was amazing, and I loved the fact that it mixed a lot of theologies. I have virtually no complaints about this book, like at all. In my opinion, definitely go and read it. It's coming out in September 2016, and so it's definitely a book I recommend you guys pick up. The next book that I read was another book that I got as an advanced reading copy, so I'm sorry, I'm just teasing everyone with all these books that are just so great and then not being able to actually have you guys read them yet. This one was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. It is a sci-fi thriller novel about a man who wakes up one day and realizes that his life is not the life that he remembers, and it deals a lot with the what if questions of if you go back to a certain moment in your life and make a different decision, what would have happened. The character Jason in this book reminded me a lot of Mark Watney from The Martian. Like, they very much had that same kind of dry humor, and I thought Jason was very much true to himself the whole time, you know, because in his situation he's thrust into a reality where if he had made a different decision, this would be the reality that he would have lived. Even though it could be considered better by others, he doesn't want that. He wants the reality that he knows with his family and the people he loves. And I thought that was just a really interesting concept in general, because it's always something we think about. If we had made a different decision, what would have happened? And this is very much like, you could always think that, but it could turn out to be something that you didn't want. The only critique that I would have with this book is that it takes a while for it to find its own identity, you know, because in the beginning it almost feels like, oh, it's a mashup of The Fold by Peter Cline plus The Martian by Andy Weir, and so it takes a while to find that individuality, and it's just one that I would highly recommend to anyone who likes books like The Martian or anything else like that in the sci-fi genre, because this one definitely brings a lot of like existential questions to mind. It does that without trying, so I really appreciated that too. So definitely another great book. And the last book I'm going to talk about is going to be another book that I loved, which is also coming out in August of 2016. This one is The Nix by Nathan Hill. It's a story about a man named Samuel Anderson. His mother left him when he was very young, and one day he ends up getting a phone call that she is being charged for the assault of a presidential candidate, and it's his job to kind of go and write a character witness, and he's also going to try and turn this story about his mother, into a book to help him with his struggling writing career. And as he goes through and like starts to uncover more about his mother's life, things that he never knew about her before, it kind of helps him get back on his feet and find his own life in the process. So it's a very long book. It's over 600 pages, and I read it on my flight home from Peru. I started off not really liking this book because it it just kind of took me a while to get into, you know. It was very slow for me at first, and then all of a sudden it started picking up. Samuel is a very soft-spoken character. He's very meek and mild-mannered and doesn't really stand up for himself a lot. And his mother is kind of the exact opposite. And as you learn more about her, you kind of see what has made her into this character, and Samuel kind of draws from that strength. Overall, I thought the story was amazing. It has a lot of flashbacks, and I love flashbacks. I love flashbacks when they're really well done and tie into the story very well. It was a satirical novel, which I enjoyed, and I don't read a lot of those, even though I love that kind of work. It's a book that after you finish it, you have to kind of just sit and reflect quietly about it for a little bit and just kind of process what you've read. So now that we've got that finished, I know that this has been so late and behind, and I'm very sorry for that, guys. I know that I was saying, like in the beginning, I was doing very well with keeping on track. I will be doing these wrap-up videos more. If you guys haven't seen my last video, then make sure you stick around. It will be playing right after this. If you guys haven't checked out the rest of my channel, then you should definitely subscribe. I try and upload bookish videos twice a week. That's all that I have for you guys today, so thank you guys so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Okay, bye. This book was sent to me to review by Julie Wetzel, Kindling Flames, Gathering Tinder.